Okay, welcome to the second video. Today we're going to take a look at some of the writing tips and how we can use that in the PTE Academic test. Okay, the writing proper of the PTE test consists of three parts. One is a part of reading. There's the drop down fill in the blanks, which we'll see in later videos. That constitutes writing. And the writing proper part, which follows speaking section, is summarize paragraph and write essays. Summarize paragraph, you've got 10 minutes to summarize a paragraph of 200 to 300 words using 7 to 70 words in one sentence. Yes, you have to use just one sentence. And you've got to use from 7 to 70 words. Obviously 70 words is going to be a really long sentence. 7 words might be too short, so I would say use about 30 to 50 words to summarize the paragraph using one sentence. And the next one is write essay. You've got 20 minutes to write an essay on a topic that will be provided. It's a little less time because you've got to write at least 200 words, not more than 300, so it's 200 to 300 words for the essay, but you have to get yourself organized so that you can finish the essay in 20 minutes. Okay, let's look at how we can do that. Summarize paragraph. It's essentially note-taking, because what you're trying to do from each paragraph or whatever's written down is try to get the key points, and you can use the notepad provided. Reading techniques are very important for this, because if you don't understand what the paragraph is saying, it's highly unlikely that you're going to be able to summarize the paragraph. So develop some reading techniques, which we will talk about in later videos, but what you can do is just reading aloud. I find that reading aloud helps a lot, because if you've got a sentence that you think is very important to understand the paragraph, then while you're reading the rest of the sentences in your head, you can just make that sentence stand out by reading it aloud. For instance, if I was reading a paragraph, I was reading it in my head, and then I came across a sentence which I think is going to be really helpful to me to understand the whole thing of the paragraph. I am going to read it aloud, not just in my head, so that it stands out. Okay, if I told you the names of 20 cities and one animal, you'd probably remember the name of the animal and not the city. That's how it stands out. Something that stands out will be in your memory, and then you can use that again. So you can use different kind of reading techniques, like reading aloud. It's one of them. We can talk about more in the next videos, and that will help you to get the key points. And you need to identify the type of paragraph, whether it's an argument, whether it's an explanation. Explanation will be telling you what the stuff is and how it is made, or when was it built, or how has it progressed. And argument will basically give you a reason and why we should support that argument. Argumentatives are pretty simple, and that's the type of essays that we'll be mostly writing on the PTE or even in other English tests as well. Now, your sentence construction should have the correct grammar. You need to check and recheck your sentences. Excuse me. And you have to look at the correct tenses. You have to look at correct use of full stops and commas, and know that you're reporting, so which is generally in the past tense. Know that this is you're reporting something that's been written, you're summarizing something that's been written, and you generally tend to use the past tense. But it's not always the case when I say generally, but mostly you'll be using the past tense. Okay, let's look at an example. Here we have an example. Now, it's talking about measuring efficiency and how we can do that if we see the first sentence. But actually what the passage is talking about is that when we just tend to measure efficiency in monetary terms, we lose a lot of social services as well, because we're trying to make money off them. And social services is not only about the short-term benefits, economic benefits, but also about the long-term consequences to the society. If you look at that, you can pause the video and try and take a look at the paragraph. You can try and read it, and try and understand what's it trying to say. And how we've summarized that is I've broken it down into 3 paragraphs. So each paragraph will generally have one key idea. So I've broken down, because it's given in 3 paragraphs, I've broken down into 3 sections, and then we'll take a look at how each section is summarized. So the first paragraph is telling us efficiency in economics is generally measured using profitability, even for essential services such as public transport. So that's how I've summarized the first paragraph. If you think you can do it differently, or if you want to know more, you can pause the video and take a look at it again. The second paragraph: but economic efficiency is only a part of it, as the social consequences need to be considered as well. Okay, when we are looking at the other things, not only the monetary terms, there are also social consequences, which is given in the paragraph. It gives quite a few examples, like social, environmental, human, and cultural costs, which are all part of social consequences. So during summary, what we also have to do is leave out the examples. We can't write everything example. We should try and get the main point, which the writer is trying to explain through examples, because you give examples to try and elaborate on a point that you're trying to make. One gives example when you're trying to elaborate on a point. So look at the examples, get what they're trying to say, and then get the main point, and that's going to be a summary for the paragraph or the sentence as well. And the last part of it says privatization may be beneficial for the business, but social provisions are not businesses, and large bodies such as governments can afford to maintain them, or are the only ones that can afford to maintain them. So we have these 3 different sentences from the summary, but remember, we have to write in one sentence, and we've got the same 3 sentences written above. And how I've assimilated that into one sentence is: although efficiency of a business is measured using profitability, which is talking about the first sentence, some essential services like public transport are social provisions. Yeah, that's the part of our third sentence. And just looking at profitability leads to negative social repercussions. Therefore, large bodies like governments must strive to maintain these services. So I've boil that down to that one sentence. So yeah, basically what you do is you look at the summary, you try and summarize, break down the paragraphs and get the key ideas, try to incorporate into the writing bit. What generally happens is that we tend to underwrite or overwrite. We tend to miss the key points if we write very little, and we tend to go beyond the 70-word limit, or our sentence just stops making sense as soon as we try and get everything into the summary that we've written. Get the key points, get as many key points as possible, because sometimes we might miss the main point. They will give you a good mark if you get the key point, but sometimes it's difficult to tell what the key point is, and it's necessary to explain other things to explain the key point as well. So my suggestion would be, get the key points of each of the paragraphs, leave out the examples, and try and put it in your own word. Try and use very little of the words that are given there already. And as you can see, the word count for this sentence is about 40 words, I'd say. So yeah, it's between the 30 to 50 word limit. Always try and keep it between 30 to 40. You've got 10 minutes. That means you've got 2 or 3 minutes to read the paragraph, try and get the key points down. Now use those key points to construct a sentence, and you've got 2 or 3 minutes or 4 minutes to construct a sentence. Look at the word count and try and look at the structure of the sentence. When you're writing, the most important thing to do is read what you've written. Most of the time we just tend to write and forget about what we've written. So go back, read what you've written, edit it again, maybe use some words that you have that can show that you've got a vocabulary as well. So that way you can benefit from it. So always write, read, write, read, write, read. So the important thing is not only to write but also to go back and read it again. Let's look at write essays now. Now, first, let's look at the summarized paragraph thing. Again, there's also something called the question technique. This is a technique I try with a lot of people. It works. So you have to understand that each statement is trying to answer a question. So it's not every sentence that the writer writes is probably answering a question. And try to find what that question is. Suppose if I tell you social provisions are not businesses but are important for the people, that means it's trying to explain what social provisions are. The question would be what social provisions are. So try and find out the questions of the sentence. What question is that paragraph actually answering? Try and find that question out and then answer the question in your own way. That means you've got your own summary using the information given in the passage. And I will definitely have some, it might be a bit confusing now, but I will definitely have further examples in the next few videos. Let's look at the write essay part. So it's important to realize you've only got 20 minutes for the essays. Very important to have a structure before you go into the room, because 20 minutes to write an essay for a topic that you've never seen before. You might have seen it before, but it's going to be different, slightly different in the exam, definitely. So it's very important to have a structure beforehand. Generally, the essay types are looking for an opinion or an argument, or your stand against a thing, whether you agree or disagree, or what reasons you have. So it's generally an opinion or an argument. They can't ask you to explain something, because what if you don't know? What if it's not your field? So it's always going to be an opinion or argument that you have to make for a very general thing which most of the people will have an idea about. So important to understand that you have to develop a position, give your reasons, and explain these using examples. That's what they're looking at. You have to develop a position, give your reasons, and explain these using examples. And the standard of your written English is going to be looked at as well. So that's what you're being tested on, whether you can develop a position, whether you can give your reasons or explain your reasons, because it's not only about the ideas, it's about how well you write, and the written technique, written discourse as well. So how well you can do that. So, and you have to explain this using examples. Let's look at how we're going. So what we need to do is the essay needs to have a structure. And how we're going to develop that structure is we need to first draw a table and lay out your arguments and counter arguments, meaning what you support and the reasons for your support for one thing, and what someone else would support, or someone else you're not supporting, but how someone else would give you his reasons to support that argument. We're going to see through an example. Now, what's important is why you have to draw up a table like this is because so that you can decide which side to choose. Do you agree or disagree? If you agree, then that's going to be your argument. Whatever you agree to is going to be your argument, and whatever someone else who doesn't agree is going to say it's going to go in the counter argument table. And once you write that down, take a look at it, think which side has got better ideas and which side you can explain properly, and then take that side. Don't just use your head. Suppose suppose there was an essay saying, okay, women should be paid less than men. Do you agree or disagree? So your head would tell you that, okay, no, yeah, definitely women should be paid equal to men. There's no doubt about it. And if you'd say, okay, I'm going to say, okay, women should be paid equal to men, but you can't come up with an argument for that, and then you'd rather say, okay, they don't work as hard or something like that. But look, I have got nothing against it. I'm just giving an example. So, and then you'd want to write for the argument, but you've got more ideas about the counter argument. Then you should definitely support the counter argument. Don't go with your heart, but think with your head. That's why to think clearly, because you've only got 20 minutes, you've got this table, okay? The essay needs to have a structure, so understand that you have to present your ideas and opinions in a couple of paragraphs, maybe more than a couple, maybe about 4 paragraphs. I'd like to say it's always 4 paragraphs, and it is a lot better and easier if you take one side. Don't try to go the middle way and support both arguments, okay? Both points of views. This is right and this is right too will not get you enough marks, okay? And do not try to use words that you haven't used in a sentence. Never ever try to learn a word off the dictionary and then go and write it down on the essay. At least read some sentences that have the word in, that have the word in it, and see how they've used it. Proper ones, not just in proper books, but maybe journalists like the BBC or the Guardian, something like that. So read. If you come across those words in those kind of proper journalistic articles, then you can definitely use it in a sentence. And don't just try and mug up the dictionary and then use those words. Sometimes they just don't make sense, because I've seen a lot of examples where people have just tried to mug up the words and then given it. It doesn't make sense. Ideas don't really matter too much if you can back it up with good written English. Okay, so this test is not about your ideas, whether you can think clearly, whether you can go ahead and write clearly. It's about whether you can back it up with good written English. All right. Now let's take a look at examples. So what this essay question is saying is, when computers first appeared on the scene, it was thought they would make us more productive in providing goods and services, smarter and possibly happier. Skeptics claim that the opposite is true, as computers have proved disappointing in terms of productivity and have made us less happy and more stupid, because information is not knowledge. Okay, which of these points of view do you agree with most? Support your argument with reasons and or examples from your own experience and observations. So I draw up a table. I've said in the argument part, I've got computers have made information sharing easier. Computers have made jobs a lot easier. And in the counter argument, what someone else would say is, there's a lot of ways to waste time, we're too reliant and have stopped being creative. So that's what someone else would say. Yeah. But I'm taking the side that computers have helped, because I believe my reasons are stronger and I can explain myself more using these arguments. But if you believe that computers have proved disappointing and there's a lot of ways to waste time, and if you believe in the counter argument, you can always choose that as well. All right. So what I like to do with the structure of the essay is they break it down into 4 paragraphs. The first thing is the background, first sentence, just maybe an introduction of the topic, give your position, and just briefly touch on the reasons. No examples, no nothing, just give your reasons. Just plain statement of the reasons. Okay, so and then in the second paragraph you elaborate argument 1 with an example, you elaborate argument 2 with an example in the third paragraph, and in the fourth paragraph you're going to kill the counter argument. I'm going to explain a bit about what kill the counter argument is, conclude, and I'd also like to say go one step beyond. I will explain all of that. Okay, what I mean by kill the counter argument is, the counter argument is making a point. In this essay, what point it was trying to make was, okay, computers, there's too much useless information, there's too many ways to waste time. But I would say just make sure that feels wrong. Of course there's too many ways to waste time, but it depends on how we use our time. Even without computers, there's still ways to waste time. You can sleep off, not go to work, drink, just have a party all the time. Yeah. So it's not about the computer, it's about the person that uses the computer. So you can kill the counter argument means I've negated the counter argument. Okay, I've said, your counter argument doesn't make sense at all. And then conclude means to repeat the point that you're supporting, but in a different manner, and go one step. When I say go one step beyond, not only say, okay, computers are not only helping us, they might be the only way forward for us now. Something like that. Yeah, computers are not only important, they're very, very important. So we're going one step beyond. Yeah. Let's look at the example. So this is my arguments and counter arguments that I'm going to use again. Yeah. Now, this is the first paragraph. Computers have become an integral part of our lives, and we can see them working to make things easier all around us. So that's the background. So now it's pretty clear that I'm going to support the computers, yeah, from the background itself. But I'm not giving my point stand yet. I'm just giving a background information. Now I'm going to make an introduction to my arguments. Yeah, and look at the second paragraph there. I've made introduction to my arguments. It's the second sentence, not a paragraph. Okay. I've just made an introduction to my arguments, what my arguments are going to be. And in the third sentence, you can see that I have stated what I'll be supporting. But the first sentence itself, the topic sentence, is the background itself is giving an idea that I'm going to support in the favor of computers helping us. Okay, that computers have helped us. Look at the second and the third paragraph. You can pause the video and read it if you want. So the second and the third paragraph is essentially stating the arguments that I already made, like information sharing has become easier, given an example there, and given two examples there, in fact. And we've also talked about the third argument and given a few examples there as well. So stated our arguments, given an example for each of the arguments, and in the last conclusion, I've killed the count. Some people argue that computers have made us less productive by providing us with ways to waste our time, making us too reliant for any simple thing, making us dumber. But I strongly believe that computers are not the reason for this, as they are a medium to achieve our means. How we use that medium depends entirely on us. It would be unwise to forego the use of computers which have made the human endeavor to simplify life possible beyond the extent we all believe. So that is my going one step beyond. So it's not possible, because we've done all this, we've done all the hard work, and this has made our lives so much more easier, and it would be very, very unwise to do that. Okay, so let it go. So that's my example. Now if you take a look at all, if you go back in the video and take a look at all the thing, there are too many words. It's about 380 words, 390 words, and some of them I've repeated. Some of the examples are there as well. So after a bit of editing and turning around, this is the final essay that I've written down. Okay, it's about 280 words. It's a little more than what is required, but since they don't count out the words that are given in the question, and since they tend to not count the articles, you have to write about 250 words. And so after a bit of editing, within the time frame, I've written down, this is my final essay. So that's how you write an essay in PTE. You've got to have a few ideas. It doesn't matter if you don't have more than one. Even if you have one, you can just elaborate on that idea and get to 200 words very easily. And you've got to have the counter argument as well, so that you can actually say what others think, and then you can actually cut that argument out. So you've made a solid argument and you've developed your position as well. Organization of ideas is proper. So that means, and then about the quality of written English, you've got to work with the tenses, which we will discuss on a couple of videos maybe next time. But the solid idea is, to get a good score in writing, you don't need an exceptional vocabulary. You just need to have a proper grammar knowledge, and you need to make sure that you practice the structure. I like to say that you should definitely practice the structure of the essays, structure of the test a lot of times before you go into the actual exam, so that you can get the score that you desire. Okay, thank you so much for watching.